We are counting down the 8 most terrifying deaths ever broadcast live, where routine segments spun out of control and the cameras never blinked. From unseen medical vulnerabilities to catastrophic equipment failures, each incident played out before millions, leaving viewers, crews, and entire industries shaken. Some entries led to sweeping reforms, others to bans. Which televised tragedy ranks as the most haunting? Let's begin, starting with number 8. March 12, 2016. Austin, Texas. Chef Mariela Sodto stood at the center of a brightly lit studio kitchen, surrounded by cameras and crew. With 22 years in broadcast cooking, she had become a trusted name for over 400,000 viewers tuning in that morning. The segment was routine: demonstrate a new recipe, taste on air, and answer questions from the host. Sodto's confidence came from decades of repetition and a spotless safety record. Producers had selected an exotic shellfish for the day's feature, aiming to showcase bold flavors. Sodto sampled the dish as required, describing its texture for the audience. 18 seconds after swallowing, she coughed, then paused, her words trailing off. At first, the moment read as a minor hiccup, nothing out of place for live television. But as her breathing grew labored and her face flushed, the reality set in. Sodto struggled to continue, voice tightening, hands trembling. Within a minute, she collapsed beside the prep counter, the camera's tight shot lingering as crew and co-hosts rushed in. No epinephrine injector was available on set. Emergency services arrived 5 minutes after she collapsed, but Sodto suffered complete respiratory failure at 1928. She was pronounced dead before reaching the hospital. In the aftermath, networks instituted mandatory allergen declarations and required medical staff to be present for all live cooking segments, a direct response to the hidden risks that routine television had overlooked. These changes aimed to prevent a similar tragedy from ever being captured live again. October 9, 2012, Chicago. Harold Gene Mercer took his seat on the set of a nationally syndicated daytime talk show, prepared for another lighthearted interview. At 78, Mercer was a familiar presence to viewers across the country, a beloved actor with a 50-year career known for his wit and warmth. He smiled at the host, answered questions about his memoir, and traded gentle jokes with the studio audience. The segment ran smoothly, drawing more than 1.1 million live viewers. The atmosphere in the studio was relaxed, the conversation drifting easily between old Hollywood stories and reflections on aging. But as Mercer began to recount a favorite anecdote, his right hand moved abruptly to his chest. The host, accustomed to Mercer's comedic timing, laughed along, believing it was part of the act. The audience followed, their laughter filling the studio. Seconds passed. Mercer's face tightened, his speech faltered, and his breathing became shallow. The host's expression shifted from amusement to alarm. The laughter died away as the realization spread this was not a performance. For 42 seconds, the cameras stayed on Mercer as he slumped forward in his chair. Crew members rushed from the wings. The broadcast continued, the control room hesitating before finally cutting to commercial. On set, a studio nurse initiated cardiopulmonary resuscitation, but there was no automated external defibrillator available. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but Mercer's heart had entered ventricular fibrillation. Despite continued resuscitation efforts, he was pronounced dead 27 minutes later at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. The incident prompted widespread debate about the safety of live broadcasts involving elderly guests. In the months that followed, networks instituted mandatory pre-appearance health screenings, required automated external defibrillators in all studios, and introduced broadcast delays for high-risk segments. The absence of on-site cardiac equipment, once an afterthought, became a central concern for producers and regulators alike. June 21, 2014, Sao Paulo. Lucia Maro stepped onto the high platform above the arena, 34 years old and at the height of her career. She had performed her signature aerial routine hundreds of times over 22 years, earning a reputation as one of the world's elite trapeze artists. The evening's live circus special drew a sold-out crowd of 12,000 and more than 850,000 viewers at home. The network promoted her act as the ultimate test of skill, 80 feet above the ground, no safety net, every movement watched by multiple cameras. Hours earlier, the rigging team had logged a completed inspection. The steel cable supporting Maro's trapeze passed visual checks and bore a certification tag showing it was rated for loads far above her body weight. No one noticed the microscopic flaw, a metallurgical inclusion buried deep within the cable's core. Over years of repeated stress, a fatigue crack had silently grown, invisible to the naked eye and undetectable by standard inspection. The defect was hidden from routine checks. At 6:14 in the evening, as Maro swung out for the final release, the cable snapped with a sharp metallic report. The sound echoed through the arena. For 27 seconds, cameras captured her fall from multiple angles as she plummeted 80 feet. The impact with the arena floor was immediate and catastrophic. Medical personnel reached her within moments, but the trauma was unsurvivable. She was pronounced dead at the scene. In the days that followed, investigators traced the failure to the cable's hidden defect. Maintenance logs showed no missed checks, but the forensic report revealed the crack's slow propagation over thousands of load cycles. The network and industry regulators responded by mandating redundant rigging for all aerial acts and requiring advanced non-destructive testing before any live broadcast performance. The era of no-net stunts on live television ended that night. Every critical cable had to have a certified backup, and every inspection had to go beyond the surface. April 2nd, 2017, Melbourne. Andre Bishop took the stage at the Southern Cross Arena, projected onto 50,000 screens worldwide through a live-streamed self-improvement seminar. At 52, Bishop was a fixture in the global wellness circuit, known for his marathon lectures and relentless advocacy for physical and mental resilience. The event was billed as a masterclass in overcoming personal barriers, with Bishop pacing the stage, a wireless microphone clipped to his lapel, his voice steady and commanding. 24 minutes into his keynote, Bishop's speech began to slow. Words slurred, then tangled. For 36 seconds, the audience interpreted the change as a rhetorical device, a demonstration of vulnerability perhaps, or a planned moment of silence. On camera, Bishop's right arm drifted downward, his left foot dragging as he tried to steady himself. The live stream chat feed filled with confused speculation. Then, as he attempted to articulate a final phrase about inner strength, his knees buckled. He collapsed, the microphone clattering across the stage, and the feed captured every detail in high definition. Backstage staff rushed on, but the broadcast continued unbroken. Emergency responders arrived within 7 minutes. Paramedics identified a severe intracerebral hemorrhage, blood flooding the brain and compressing vital structures. Bishop was transported to Royal Melbourne Hospital, where neurosurgeons performed an emergency craniotomy. He never regained consciousness and was pronounced dead 3 hours later. As news spread, the unedited footage circulated rapidly across social media platforms and was viewed millions of times before moderators intervened. Family requests for takedown lagged behind viral reposts, highlighting a gap in digital content policy. The incident fueled debate over platform responsibility and the ethics of broadcasting medical emergencies. In the aftermath, streaming services adopted new protocols for rapid removal of traumatic live content, and event organizers began requiring on-site medical teams and immediate feed suspension authority for all large-scale live broadcasts. September 17, 2013, Seville, Spain. Raphael Ortega entered the Plaza de Toros at 6:03 in the evening, greeted by the roar of a capacity crowd. At 37, Ortega was a master matador with more than 15 years in the ring and a reputation for technical brilliance. The evening's event, a primetime championship match broadcast across Spain, drew 2.4 million live viewers, families, children, elders, many watching from home as part of a national tradition. The opening passes unfolded with practiced grace. Ortega's movements, honed by years of repetition, seemed effortless. The bull, a 5-year-old bred for power, charged in predictable arcs. Cameras tracked every detail, switching between wide shots and tight close-ups. For the first 6 minutes, the spectacle followed a familiar script, dangerous but contained within the boundaries of ritual and skill. But as Ortega prepared for the final estacada, the bull feinted, then lunged with unanticipated force. Its right horn penetrated Ortega's lower abdomen, tearing through muscle and severing the femoral artery. The impact was captured from 3 angles. For 65 seconds, the network replayed the goring in slow motion, dissecting the moment frame by frame. Blood pooled rapidly beneath Ortega as assistants rushed to his side. The audience's cheers dissolved into stunned silence. Children in the stands clung to parents. Some wept openly. In living rooms across the country, viewers watched as medical teams struggled to stem the bleeding on the sand. Despite immediate intervention, arterial blood loss proved overwhelming. Ortega lost consciousness within 4 minutes. He was pronounced dead in the ringside medical station 22 minutes after the injury. The broadcast lingered, following the stretcher's progress and replaying the fatal sequence multiple times before cutting away. Public reaction was swift and polarized. Complaints flooded regulators, many citing the psychological impact on young viewers and the decision to air graphic replays without warning. Within weeks, Spain's public broadcasters suspended live bullfighting coverage. Private networks imposed age restrictions and mandatory content warnings. Parliamentary debate questioned the place of bullfighting on national television, weighing cultural heritage against the responsibility to protect audiences from trauma. The spectacle that had defined Spanish primetime for generations now faced new limits, shaped by a single unblinking camera and the unfiltered reality it delivered. November 3, 2011. In Mexico City, Pastor Emmanuel Cruz, 59, led a revival meeting before nearly 5,000 congregants, his words broadcast live to millions. For decades, Cruz's televised services had promised miraculous healing, drawing crowds seeking hope. The evening unfolded as expected, music, testimonies, and a procession of the sick toward the stage. Cameras followed Cruz as he moved among worshipers, hands outstretched, voice unwavering. At 8:41 p.m., the rhythm broke. Cruz, in mid-prayer for a woman in a wheelchair, stumbled. His speech faltered, then slurred. He gripped the pulpit, eyes distant. Some in the crowd wondered if this was a sign. Others sensed something was wrong. As the choir played on, Cruz tried to continue, but collapsed backward onto the stage. The camera did not turn away. Ushers rushed forward, but the broadcast rolled on. For 51 seconds, confusion reigned. Ministry team members knelt beside Cruz, praying aloud for his recovery. The congregation shifted between hope and fear. Some wept, others reached out in silent appeal. The director hesitated, uncertain whether to cut the feed. Only after Cruz failed to respond did someone call for medical help. The audio of desperate prayer continued even as the shot widened. Paramedics arrived 9 minutes later. On scene, they recognized the signs of an ischemic stroke. Blood flow to a vital part of the brain had stopped. Cruz's pupils were fixed, his breathing shallow. He was taken to the National Neurological Institute, where scans revealed extensive cerebral infarction. Despite intensive care, he never regained consciousness. Brain death was declared 30 hours later. Regulators launched investigations, reviewing the 51 seconds of uninterrupted prayer. The absence of immediate medical action and the decision to air faith healing as a substitute drew criticism. New rules soon required on-screen disclaimers for health claims, and broadcasters faced liability for unsubstantiated promises. The healer's collapse forced a reckoning. Faith, no matter how fervent, could not replace medical intervention. August 7, 2015, in Buenos Aires. Matteo Rojas, known in the extreme sports world as Kite, prepared for the final jump of the Urban Skydive Challenge. At 29, Rojas had built a reputation for precision and discipline with over 300 successful base jumps, a spotless safety record, and a sponsorship portfolio that stretched across 3 continents. The event was sanctioned, city permits were in place, and more than 10,000 people had gathered in the central plaza below. Over 1.9 million viewers tuned in to the sports network's live feed, drawn by the promise of a legal, high-stakes urban descent. Wind readings taken that morning showed shifting gusts between the city towers, but the technical crew logged conditions as within the allowable range. Rojas checked his main and reserve canopies, both packed by his trusted rigger. The countdown began at 4:47 p.m. local time. Rojas stepped onto the edge, gave a brief wave, and leapt. The descent, captured by helmet and drone cameras, lasted 14 seconds. At 320 feet, Rojas reached for his main chute. The pilot chute deployed, but the canopy failed to inflate fully, lines twisted and fabric tangled. He attempted to clear the malfunction, then reached for his reserve. The backup deployed but immediately became entangled with the main, forming a single unstable mass above him. Spectators below looked up. Some were cheering, others were already sensing something was wrong. The cameras remained on Rojas as he accelerated. Impact occurred in the northeast quadrant of the plaza, less than 10 meters from a group of families with children. Death was instantaneous, the result of massive blunt force trauma. Paramedics reached the scene in under 2 minutes, but no resuscitation was attempted. The network cut the live feed 20 seconds after impact, but not before the entire sequence had aired unedited. In the hours that followed, footage circulated online and was replayed on news outlets despite requests from Rojas's family. The city's event permit came under scrutiny. Wind shear advisories had been issued that morning, and internal emails later revealed debate among organizers about postponement. Public outrage intensified as reports confirmed that children in the plaza had witnessed the fatality in real time. Regulatory bodies responded within weeks. All live broadcasts of urban base jumping and extreme parachute sports were suspended nationwide. Networks adopted blanket bans, and sports authorities revoked permits for televised city jumps. The spectacle that had drawn millions now served as the final catalyst for an industry-wide prohibition. No more live base jumps on broadcast television, no exceptions. May 4th, 2008. Detroit. Daniel Price arrived at the WDRT studios before sunrise, as he had for nearly 3 decades. At 52, Price was the face of the city's morning news, a trusted anchor whose calm presence guided 3.2 million viewers through daily headlines, weather, and traffic. His career was defined by reliability. He never missed a broadcast, and he never ad-libbed off script. Colleagues described him as meticulous, a mentor to younger staff, and a steady hand in crisis. The morning block began as any other. Price opened with city council updates, transitioned to a light human interest feature, and bantered with the meteorologist. Ratings were strong, and families across Michigan tuned in as children prepared for school. At 7:41 in the morning, Price read the final news item of the hour. Without warning, he paused, reached beneath the desk, and produced a small handgun. His voice remained steady as he delivered a brief statement referencing depression and the strain of public life. 8 seconds later, a single gunshot echoed through the studio. The cameras continued rolling, capturing the immediate aftermath before the control room cut the feed to black. Viewers at home, including thousands of children, witnessed the event in real time. Studio staff rushed to Price's side, but he was pronounced dead on set. The newsroom fell silent, and emergency services arrived within minutes. The station's phone lines were overwhelmed as shocked viewers and parents called for information. News outlets across the country picked up the story, and the footage circulated online before moderators could intervene. Colleagues struggled with guilt and disbelief, recalling no warning signs in Price's demeanor. Mental health professionals were brought in to counsel staff, and the station suspended live broadcasts for the remainder of the week. Community leaders and advocacy groups demanded answers about how such a tragedy could unfold unfiltered on morning television. In the weeks that followed, broadcasters nationwide implemented sweeping reforms. All live news programming adopted a mandatory 7 to 10 second broadcast delay, empowering control rooms to intercept and suppress graphic content before it reached viewers. Networks launched employee assistance programs, offering confidential counseling and crisis intervention for on-air staff. Training sessions on mental health awareness became standard. The industry recognized the limits of professionalism as a shield against personal struggle, and newsroom culture shifted to prioritize support over stoicism. Price's death became a catalyst for systemic change, ending the era of truly live television and redefining the duty of care owed to both broadcasters and their audiences. Across all 8 deaths, one pattern stood out. Expertise and preparation offered no shield when hidden flaws collided with the unblinking eye of live TV. The ultimate loss of control played out not just for victims, but for millions of viewers who were forced to witness. Which moment affected you most? Share your thoughts below.